Hey, yo, what's going on, you guys? Tucker here with a brand new episode of Buy or Bust. Today we're going to be talking about good old Iron Patriot. Let's go ahead and jump into what Iron Patriot does, as well as some key synergies, some crazy decks for you guys. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Iron Patriot is the brand new Season Pass card coming out in January. It's going to be coming out this Tuesday, and this is what Iron Patriot actually does. It's actually a pretty interesting card when it boils down to it. It has the on reveal at a random 4, 5, or 6 cost card to your hand. And if you're winning here, where you played Iron Patriot, after next turn, give that card -4 cost. Meaning your 4 cost card could cost 0, your 5 cost card could cost 1, and your 6 card could cost 2. Of course, you do have to be winning that location. But keeping that in mind, let's look at a couple key cards that can help you win that location. Or even just have some good value there too. So one of the first cards that comes to mind, of course, is you're adding a card to your hand. So I'm thinking the Collector. You're thinking this kind of with a Kate Bishop, kind of similar in that vein, or Valentina. Not necessarily the bread and butter fit for this card, but one of the key cards I thought of Collector, I thought of Wiccan. I also thought of Devil Dinosaur, getting some value there too. Of course, you're not playing Devil Dinosaur in this meta by any means right now, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to play it. Maybe I'm coping, definitely am coping. But also Juggernaut, I'm thinking with the good old Iron Patriot 2 to play this onto your Iron Patriot lane in order to solidify that you're getting the discount on the card on the following turn, which would be turn 4, to getting that -4 discount with Juggernaut there. I think more or less like the Wiccan kind of style decks is where you're going to see more of this. Or maybe like some card generation stuff with Collector, maybe not Devil Dino. But, you know, we always like to have fun with Devil Dino, but there are some cards that can also truly counter Iron Patriot as well. None that came to mind that's probably a little bit more niche is going to be Lady Deathstrike. Lady Deathstrike, of course, just destroying, Iron Patriot makes it so you cannot get the discount on the card on the following turn. So keeping that in mind prospectively, you also have Mobius. Mobius counters to discount anyways. You're seeing this, of course, in a bunch of other lists if you're running against like Sarah attack kind of stuff. I think there is a potential for Mobius to be prevalent in the meta this upcoming week with the Season Pass, especially if a lot of people are playing it, just having that key counter card there. And of course, Red Guardian, the on-reveal will still happen for Iron Patriot. You'll still get the card generation, but Red Guardian would turn off the remaining text on Iron Patriot, so you're not able to get that discount on the following turn, so just keep that in mind. And there's a lot of Red Guardian everywhere right now, so I think this is definitely going to be something people are going to be targeting in the first week as well. With that in mind, let's talk about some of the good that comes to this card. One of the main things is it's easy to play on curve. It's easy to play Kate Bishop. It's easy to play Valentina. It'll be easy to play Iron Patriot on curve. Of course, there's also the unpredictableness. Your opponent doesn't know what you generated. It's one random 4 cost, 5 cost, or 6 cost card. So they don't know out of the 123. At first, I was thinking 125. Then I remembered about Airsham, and I remembered about Death, and those are not 6 cost cards. Those are 7 and 8 cost cards, so it's 123 different options there. So that could be a snap condition, especially if you do win that location. It would be also, like I'm saying, it forces your opponent to have to play onto the Iron Patriot lane in order to either make it so you don't get that discount, which could give you some Rocket and Groot value, could give you some Guardians value, gives you that Juggernaut value I was talking about, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, maybe even just Gladiator, just to have power on that side of the board. There's a couple different options there in order to kind of offset what your opponent's trying to do. And like I said, there's plenty of good hits. There's 123 different outcomes. Not saying all of them are going to be good hits, but there's some potentially good ones. And then when it comes to the bad, of course, you don't know what you're going to generate. It could be completely random for you too. It could be a good card. It could be a bad card. You really don't know, of course, until it happens. Your pool is going to be more limited than if you were playing like a Agent 13, of course, and then you do have the discount mechanic potentially as well. And then, of course, your opponent can literally counter the discount by winning the lane that you played your Iron Patriot on, or by Red Guardianing it, which, like I said, is very relevant right now. So Red Guardian can just turn off what Iron Patriot's trying to do, and then you just don't even get the value there. You still have the card generation, but you don't get the value from the discount there. And there's also some bad hits, of course. There's plenty of bad hits. Like I said, there's 123 different possibilities that you can get from Iron Patriot. Probably, if you look at it and fine-tune it even more, and maybe even less, and maybe more like 122, because you can't get Kang looking at this in hindsight. So there's just a variety of different ways. If they added Kang into the pool, I would be surprised, but there's 122 looking at it now in hindsight. And then here we got to talk about the floor and the ceiling. Of course, we're going to start off with the ceiling. When it comes to the best possible outcome here is you play this on a curve, you're winning this location after the next turn, and then you generated a good card that gets the -4 discount. So you have the 2/3 of Iron Patriot playing that on curve, and then the generated card, I'm thinking more of a 5 or a 6 cost card. When I was talking about this with Guest, and I was talking about this with Dance yesterday, they brought up a great point. A 1/5 Adam Warlock is actually good, opposed to a 5/5 Adam Warlock. So getting the value in that sense would be a solid 5 cost there. A 1 -8 would be the Green Goblin or Hobgoblin. Getting the Hobgoblin to your opponent's side of the board, it would be some good value there. So there's very fun lines and opportunities you can get at the peak with this card in order to get just immense value there. I think there's also the downside where if you can play this late, or if you don't get an opportunity to play the generated card, you don't get the discount. This is a 2/3, which is okay stats. Nothing crazy, but decent for just having a card on the board. But I think the average kind of possibilities, you'll be able to play it out. You'll generate your 4, 5, or 6 cost card. You have to fight to win that lane, and if you do, the card gets discounted, and then you get to play that generated card with the discount after on turn 4 because you won the lane on turn 3. That's kind of the middle tier. I think high end, of course, is a good 5 or 6 costs. Low end, you don't get to play any of the cards that you generated. It's just 2, 3. And average, you're probably going to have an opportunity to play it out. It just may not be discounted. Moving on, we do have 3 decks that I think might be kind of applicable. One of them is totally a Cope deck, and I'll show you guys that one. But the first deck I'm thinking of is called Try and Guess. So it is going to be a Wiccan list. You're using Iron Patriot in this instead of like the Shadow King you had originally, but you have a lot of different card generation with Iron Patriot, with Kate Bishop, and with Valentina. So your opponent has to kind of guess what potential you have in your hand, which allows you to be able to have some crazy snap conditions. Your 3 costs on curve 2 are a Negasonic, a Gladiator, and a Red Guardian, which is also solid too. You also, I think, no, you actually took out U.S. Agent instead of Shadow King. You could put U.S. Agent back in here if you wanted this, maybe instead of a Fenrir Wolf, potentially. But we have the Wolf in here to get some value with either the Gladiator or the Shang-Chi. So you have just abundance of outcomes there, and your opponent doesn't necessarily know what arrow you got, what cards you got from Iron Patriot, and what 6 costs you got from Valentina. So I like the unknowns in that kind of situation here. The next deck is a little bit more copium. It's a kind of like a classic Dino Hawk, but a newer take on it with Collector, Iron Patriot. You have Zabu, the Iron Lad. You have Agent Coulson to be able to get some value potentially there too with some random generated cards. Mystique can either copy Darkhawk, Devil Dino, or even if Iron Lad copies one of those cards, she can copy Iron Lad as well. So you have a couple different options there. Mystique also could copy the Pym Arrow if need be. But this is kind of more of like a copium, but like putting Devil Dino maybe in like a newer age kind of style list is what I was thinking with this one. And then I was thinking about Noki. You know, Noki was very popular last year during the middle of the year when Loki was completely different. But with this, we're running it more with some of the Iron Patriot value to potentially even have, you know, Red Guardian, Gladiator still kind of packaged there. But collector value with Iron Patriot, Kate Bishop, Valentina. That right there is at least 4 power to collector. He becomes a 2/6. You also have Mockingbird value if you get some of those cards on the board. U.S. Agent into Gladiator is incredible. We took it out of the first list, but you could always add it back into the first list if you like that more than the Fenris package. But I'm thinking this could potentially have some value here in the meta if you're not into a lot of top-heavy cards. Right now, it seems like we're in a bunch of mid-range, and Luke Cage is just amazing into all this affliction that is everywhere right now too, so having that to go with the Valentina just seems very applicable there. But with that in mind, let's move on to our community and my personal review. So holistically, from what I've seen from the community, is I think this card is going to be okay. Nothing crazy. It's kind of flexible because it has the card generation, like Kate Bishop was flexible. It's different because it's not the same as generating 1-cost cards. You're generating 4, 5, and 6-cost cards, and you're still fighting to win that lane to get that -4 cost, that -4 discount on the card as well. Potentially, if Iron Patriot is starting to run rampant in the meta. Let's say for some reason, I think they could adjust his card himself, like his power, or minus the cost to 3 instead of 4. I don't know exactly if that's what's going to happen, and that's like what the community is thinking and like what I'm thinking as well. I think the strength of this card especially goes more into the conquest side of things too. Having that unknown factor, since your opponent doesn't know what you got from your Iron Patriot in your conquest game, could either make or break the game for you, or make it so they really don't know why are you staying after they snapped, or why did you snap that condition, what did you get with Iron Patriot. You have to start thinking. It's kind of like the Airsham kind of mindset too. What card do they have? Is it actually right for me to stay? You know, you have to think through a bunch of different options, which is why I genuinely like the card there, even though I don't like Airsham. Difference is this is one card generated, not an entire deck generated, which is why I didn't like Airsham in the first place in that sense. But the cost, I like the potential value of fighting for that lane to get that -4 cost, or literally not fighting for that. Your opponent throws what they need in that lane, and then you can play around in the other lanes. So that turn was good for you in a sense of you got the intel of what big cards they might be playing, and bad for your opponent because they thought you were going to be committing to that right lane, that middle lane, or that left lane where you put your Iron Patriot anyways. So I like that intel kind of aspect of it. But I'm pretty decent on this card. I think when it comes to like the season pass overall, I think you should always get the season pass. I think the value is always there. So I think this is going to be a fun card. I think it's going to be a good card. I'm interested to see how the meta shapes up with this card on release, because it does go with Victoria Hand, which Victoria Hand's video will be out tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see how all those kind of play in together. What's the meta going to be shaping up like? Because we are seeing a lot of Affliction right now. You know, we are seeing some other just weird decks that just kind of work because the meta is still kind of wide open after the kind of like massacre, not necessarily death, of Airsham. You definitely feels different. But I'm excited for this card. I'm excited for this new season. I'm interested to see what it all has to hold. But of course, with our final notes here, you guys got to keep in mind, wait a couple days. You don't have to buy the season pass the first day. You can still get all the season pass rewards later on in the season if you wanted to wait and you didn't want the new card. You know, like, I'm wrong about cards. The community is wrong about cards. It happens. You know, we don't know necessarily how this works. I haven't seen the dev video yet, so like, this is, of course, before the dev video has come out to see if they've even changed anything about these cards too. So some of this is a little bit of speculation. And then, yeah, sometimes the cards just don't work the way we think they do, or they are intended, and it takes a couple days for them to patch or OTA, whatever happens to the card as well. And prioritize, you know, this is real money you have to spend for this card. You can't just get this card with tokens. You can't just get this card with spotlight keys. So if you want to spend money in the game, feel free to, but you don't have to spend money in the game. Maybe you're down on Snap. Maybe you're waiting until something actually comes and changes. Totally feel free to wait. Like, there's no problem with that at all whatsoever. And, you know, good cards get nerfed and bad cards get buffed. So if this shapes out to be a bad card, we've had a lot of season pass cards that just get buffed within a week or two of the season starting. Or if it's too good, they get nerfed within a week or two of the season started. So just be on the lookout for that. But as always, I appreciate you guys sticking around to the very end of the video. If you did enjoy the video, definitely feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Until the next time, you guys have a good one. Win the weekend. God bless, and Tucker out.